What a great way for me to introduce my next guest here from the Los Angeles Times. And I appreciate, by the way, he offered to conduct this interview because the LA Times offices are right across the street. When things are back to normal here again, and instead of whatever you guys are doing these days during the first 15, 20 minutes of our show or first hour of the show, hardly paying attention to what I'm saying, and there are people walking behind me, and you're distracted by the people walking behind me. When everybody's back here again, full strong, knock on wood if you're with me, when the AT&T comes back full strong.
The parade
here.
of...
Yeah. So the Canyon of Heroes, as you like to talk about.
Brockman and Canyon of Heroes.
Many times the LA Times, members of the Los Angeles Times will come and use our cafeteria.
Yes.
Okay. So this gentleman offered to conduct this interview on the other side, in person, but through the glass, practice social distancing. And we just said a phone call will do, because after 60 seconds, that might just get a little odd, a little bit awkward, but this means he's just next level. Columnist and a reporter from the Los Angeles Times. He is Arash Markazi. How are you, Arash?
I am good. I do miss that cafeteria. Great salad bar. We don't have a cafeteria. We're under construction across the street. But, yeah, I did offer, with my mask and gloves to do the social distancing segment.
I know.
But I was told that would not make good television.
Yeah, it's just. I think this is just appropriate to talk about what's going on. Let's just jump head first right into this, Arash, because so many of us are hoping that sports comes back. All the headlines about, people who are sick and death totals, and it really is so depressing, and it really gets to you. And that's why, we're doing a show like this every day to at least get people's minds off of that. But the concept of when sports is returning obviously has a lot to do with that. And the conversation is already out there that it won't matter if sports leagues say we're going to come back and there are no fans, that the state of California is just going to put the kibosh on it anyway. What are you hearing on that front, Arash?
Yeah, I mean, the conversation is really around what states could we go and have these games at, whether it's Florida, whether it's Phoenix, whether it's somewhere else. California, I don't see that happening. And even when you talk about sports with no fans, that's in stage 3. We're in stage 1 now. So I don't think we're going to be in stage 3 soon. So that's why you're hearing about, Florida, like Orlando, Las Vegas. That being said, Rich, I do think it would be cathartic and calming to see sports. I know it's weird with no fans, but I mean, if we're watching a game and it's a competitive game and it's two teams that we know, again, we have to wait till it's safe. We have to wait till they can test everyone. But when we get to that point in time, because I've heard so many people talk about, well, if there's no fans, that's not going to feel right. Well, listen, we have to just accept that things are not going to be normal for a period of time. But if we can get sports back without fans, I would love that.
Of course, and I'm reading all sorts of polls that most sports fans would be absolutely fine with no sports fans in the stands, that the sporting events would go on and everybody can stay healthy and compete, and we can see all this. That's why I guess people were staying up last night to watch South Korean baseball on ESPN, Arash,
KBO. I love KBO. And by the way, one of the benefits of being in Los Angeles, that is a 10 p.m. start time, not 1 o'clock in the morning. So I did watch KBO. I will be watching that. And again, that goes back to I'm going to watch you guys for the schedule release, the 3-hour extravaganza, because I have nothing else to do, And so whether it's the draft, whether it's the Last Dance, no matter what it is, I'm kind of stuck at home, so I'm going to watch what I can watch.
Right. Let me hit on a few items that you've been hitting lately in your columns, and that also dovetails a little bit in your articles and dovetails a little bit in what we discussed already. Just up the street is that brand new stadium in which the Chargers and maybe Justin Herbert and the Rams, and obviously a team that is a couple years removed from the Super Bowl, and we're 1 year removed from a Super Bowl here in the 2022 calendar year is when it would be held here. What's going on with that stadium?
Well, from what I've heard, it's on track to be completed this summer. That being said, Rich, we obviously know that we won't be in a state in the state of California to have fans. 4 positive COVID-19 cases on the construction site. That continues. By the way, that's not uncommon. You go to Las Vegas, they've had 16 confirmed cases. So, and construction continues on both sites. I've been told that they both will be completed by this summer. But again, I don't think we're going to be in a place where we can have fans. So maybe games are held there without fans. You could insert your own Chargers joke there, but I don't think both of those stadiums will be done. But I don't think either stadium is going to be in a place to have 70,000 people soon.
Okay, and what are you hearing about the Lakers and the return of the NBA, Arash?
That one, to me, Rich, seems like the most likely short-term scenario. Why? Because I think you go right into the postseason. You've played about 66 games. You go back to the lockout season in 2011-12. That was 66 games. You go back to the 99 lockout season. That was 50 games. They've played about 66 games. You go straight into the playoffs, 16 teams. The beauty of a playoffs is once the first round is done, you cut that number in half. You get to the second round, you cut that number in half. So you have a 1-month postseason, and you crown the champion. And I think we're talking about football and baseball. When I think of the NBA, these guys have had training camp, they've had preseason, they've played like 80% of their season. They should find a way to crown a champion. So they're cautiously optimistic. You talk to Mark Cuban, you talk to other people in the league, cautiously optimistic that there's no rush. It doesn't have to be in June, maybe July, but they want to find a pathway to crown at least a champion.
Okay. Arash Markazi of the Los Angeles Times here on the Rich Eisen Show. You had a great column about the famed Monte Carlo practice that we saw on The Last Dance on Sunday with Magic Johnson being at the center of all that. I'm loving this, man. I wonder what else you might be able to add from what we saw on Sunday night.
So when I talk to Magic, and again, you talk to guys on that 92 Dream Team, they say that Monte Carlo scrimmage is the greatest game that they were a part of, that they played in, they loved it so much. And I said, well, you noticed something? He's like, yeah, but there were no fans there. I know it's different, it's a scrimmage, but what he said is like, listen, if they have the Western Conference Finals and it's the Lakers and the Clippers and you got Kawhi and Paul George and LeBron and Anthony Davis, it's going to be weird without fans. But you go a couple minutes into that game and there's a big block or there's a big shot, your competitive juices start to flow, and it's going to be fun to watch. Why is it going to be fun to watch? We're going to hear a lot of trash talking. There may have to be a 10-second delay because there's going to be a lot of things said that we may not want to hear. And so he said it's not like an ideal situation, but when you talk about the stakes being that high, the NBA Finals, the conference championship game, if they played those games without fans, it may look weird, but 5-10 minutes in, those competitive juices get to go, and you start trash talking, you start to hear things. He thinks it's going to be fantastic.
I'm hearing, is it true that Kobe's last season, his final season, was also chronicled like this? I
remember that, Rich, because, he had the camera crew there that entire season. And the one thing I kept thinking throughout that season, I think they only won 13 games or something. I said, this is really great content, but it's during a really bad season. But thankfully they were there the night he scored 60 points. So they may have to do similar to what they've done with The Last Dance where, it's chronicling his last game and last season, but you kind of go back and forth because, again, that last season, unfortunately, was not a great season, but that 60-point night was one of the most fun nights that I've had.
Yeah, that was – I remember, Arash, I was sitting at home with my wife, and it was the night where the Warriors were going for the win that would break the famed Bulls regular season win total, and it was also Kobe's final game. And I remember that the Warriors' victory wasn't in doubt at all. And Kobe and the Lakers were losing, I believe, to the Jazz by double digits. And we're like, just, you know what, screw it. Let's just see. Let's see how this thing plays out here in Staples. And then our jaws hit the floor. That was one of the most amazing, because the number of times that you are looking forward to seeing something and the sporting event or the athlete who's at the center of the sporting event never rarely rises to the occasion, rarely gives you what you're looking for. And Kobe did that. And it was totally out of the blue, and it was amazing. Amazing.
And they showed that recently, and as fun as it was at the time, it's really heartbreaking in hindsight because Kobe is there, and Gigi and Vanessa and Gianna are courtside. And so when you watch that back again, and as soon as the game is over, he gives them a big hug and a kiss, and it's just heartbreaking. But, I mean, I'm glad that they chronicled that last night, that last game, and so they probably have great stuff. And I think this is going to become a trend. I think you're going to see a lot of teams and players say, like, I want people to remember me like this. Listen, no one's Michael Jordan, but I think maybe this may inspire more people to say, hey, listen, I want to be chronicled like this.
Arash Markazi of the Los Angeles Times here on the Rich Eisen Show. If there's a documentary about the Kobe Shaq years, what would that look like, do you think?
That would be amazing. I mean, the drama was very similar to this because I go back to that 2004 finals, and no matter what happens, because people think if they had beaten Detroit, that team was done. Phil was done coaching Kobe. Shaq was done with Kobe because obviously if you remember that season begins with the incident in Colorado and Shaq's basically saying what the heck is going on. I mean, the drama around that team, so that's what makes a great documentary is if you have drama. And that 2004 team, which was one of my first seasons covering them, I just remember like what is going on? Like none of this makes sense. Like in terms of like no matter what happened, like, Kobe's gone if Shaq's back. So, like, Kobe might go to the Clippers, and Phil's gone regardless, and Karl Malone, what's he going to do? And so just that whole Kobe-Shaq relationship and, you know, one of the, you know, the saddest things of Kobe being gone is, like, you know he would not hold back, you know? So he would have given you a great sit-down interview. So I hope they do that because the relationship that they had and how contentious it was, that's fascinating.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, Shaq and Kobe's relationship could be, you know, I think there might be enough material that's already out there prior to. And again, I still can't believe when Kobe's just brought up and just seeing how episode 5 of The Last Dance started with, you know, in loving memory of Kobe Bryant in the 1998 NBA All-Star game in New York City. It just, I still can't believe he's gone. But Phil, I mean, what is it about Phil that allows him to coach such incredible personalities and in the middle of what appears to be pure hatred amongst teammates and people that he needs to keep?
By the way, isn't that the most amazing thing? Because in today's time period, if a GM had made the decision to move on from a coach, I think we would all wink know that. But I don't think he'd. I mean, Jerry Krause was very blunt. Like, it doesn't matter if he wins every single game by 20 points, like, he's gone. So just, like, they kind of, like concerted drama and controversy, and maybe that helped that team. But to go back to Phil, I covered that Lakers team in '99 when they got swept out of the second round by the Spurs. And Phil comes in, and it's basically the same team. I mean, they really signed a bunch of guys who were kind of like glue guys. They brought in Harper, they brought in John Sally, they brought in Shaw, but it wasn't like they brought a superstar in. But Phil's calming presence and the way that he deals with guys and makes them play like as one. So whenever he's criticized, it's like, well, he had Jordan and then he had Kobe. Yes, but he got them to play within the construct of a team, and that is huge.
Arash Markazi here on the Rich Eisen Show. So I guess summing it all up, when it all comes down to it, and we're going to get Shaq on, the question I think that's going to linger when this is all said and done is the Bulls versus the Lakers, the dynastic teams, and who would be better than the other. I think we're going to get to that. That's my prediction.
You're 100% right. I mean, when people say that if Jordan had not retired, do they win 7 in a row or like 8 in a row? It is so clear when you watch that documentary in the episode from Sunday. He was shot. He was done. I mean, there was no chance of him continuing. He needed that break. They needed to change up the team, go from Paxson to Kerr, from Horace Rand to Rodman. They needed a change, and you're 100% right. By 99, I think they used that fuel of this is the last dance, where to the point where like they were not going to come back. Phil's contract was up, Jordan's contract was up, Pippen's contract was up. They were done. So 6 Ike out of 8 is a fantastic run. So I hope this kind of, when people say what could have happened, I think they maximized their potential.
Thank you, Arash. Appreciate it. What do you got a question for him, Chris?
Yeah, Arash, look, so much GOAT talk on Twitter right now, I can't take it anymore, but who do you think is the greatest ever, Mike or MJ? Or is it somebody else? Is it Kareem?
I love the debate. I'm not one who doesn't like it, but it's Michael Jordan for me in terms of what he meant, for what he did on the court, But I really hope we can just enjoy like everyone's greatness in like its own light. Like LeBron is great, Kobe's great, Kareem, Bill Russell. Like it doesn't have to be a debate. But when you watch Jordan, just like his presence and what he did on the court, I'm going to go with Michael Jordan. But right now, give it to LeBron. What he's been able to do, and that's why I really hope we do have a completion to the season. Because if he were to win there's going to be a documentary. If the Lakers find a way to win with what they've done, from China in the preseason, which people forget, to Kobe in January, to if they find a way to win this year, what a crazy year. So the GOAT is Michael Jordan, though. Chris Brockman, I'm going to have to give it to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I agree. That's a fact. Thanks for the call, Arash. Really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
You got it. That's Arash Markazi of the Los Angeles Times. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.